The long-awaited Ahsoka show has arrived, and it's, well, messy. It's only 2 episodes in, so I won't say it's doomed to fail. There hasn't been anything world-breaking right off the bat like in some other shows, but it's certainly off to a rocky start. So far, it's been marked by clunky dialogue, sloppy choreography, questionable character developments, and unimaginative storytelling. I'd like to talk about the actual plot, but not much has really happened. We're a quarter of the way through the season, and so far it almost feels like you could have skipped these 2 episodes in lieu of watching the trailer again. Now you might imagine that if the plot isn't progressing at pace, then we're establishing and developing characters through some meaningfully revealing dialogue, but you'd be wrong. That's okay. They can spend some time building this world, and that would be valuable, but they don't do that either. They don't really do anything. There are some surface-level conversations that accomplish the same thing multiple times. There's a plot somewhat reminiscent of an Uncharted game, if Uncharted games weren't fun. You know what? Let's just go through both of these episodes from the top. The show begins with a title crawl. For some reason, the text is red. The only reason I can think of is that the Siege of Mandalore started with a red logo, and people liked that, so they're doing it again. It looks very cheap, like it was done by someone who was editing for the first time. Pretty sure the font is just Arial, and it scrolls up two-dimensionally. Not really giving Galaxy Far Far Away vibes. But apparently, Ahsoka has captured a prisoner who is now being transported to Home 1. This happened in another show, but they're giving you some background in case you didn't see it, which is nice. For some reason, Ahsoka isn't aiding in the transfer, which is strange. The prisoner supposedly could find Grand Admiral Thrawn, who would start another war, so it seems like securing this transfer should be top priority for Ahsoka. While transporting this prisoner mentioned in the PowerPoint presentation, another ship enters their sector and claims to be piloted by Jedi. The captain doesn't believe them.
I'm calling their bluff. Signal them to come aboard.
If you don't believe they're Jedi, why would you signal them to come aboard? Perhaps you want to arrest them, but they say they want to see your prisoner. Again, the one with information that can aid in the finding of the guy who supposedly will start another war if found. Why would you allow anyone suspicious to come aboard this ship in any capacity while transporting this prisoner? For all you know, there could be 30 armed soldiers in that ship. Captain Hale flaunts his stupidity to the audience in order to exercise his ego or something, and not to be outdone, Baylan Skoll exhibits his own lack of pragmatism.
Allow me to show you our identification.
If you actually are Force wielders, then why wouldn't you display that? It might convince the captain that you actually are Jedi, and he would bring you directly to the prisoner. I understand they can handle some rebels, but this just leaves a lot up to chance. Do you know where the prisoner is being held? Are you certain there isn't a whole battalion of rebel, or Republic, I guess, soldiers to escort this incredibly important prisoner, like there should be? Maybe more than you can handle? I get you have the Force, but numbers can in fact overwhelm even Jedi.
We are no Jedi.
Hey, remember when Ahsoka said that and you guys really liked it? Well, here's hoping you like it again. Hey, remember when Darth Vader mowed down soldiers in a hallway and you guys really liked it? So we made a scene where Maul mowed down soldiers in a hallway and you guys really liked it? Well, here's hoping you like it again. Except a really condensed version with boring choreography. Look how many blaster shots Skull blocks without moving his lightsaber at all. What? This guy's dead? He burned his leg, and that's fatal? He didn't stab him or slash him across the chest or dismember him. Just a really hot branding iron to the leg and he's dead. Man, lightsabers sure are lethal. I'm sure that'll be consistent. Skull then uses the Force to open Elsbeth Morgan's cell, and this dialogue exchange happens.
Baylan, you are true to your word.
And well paid for it, Lady Morgan.
So this man is a dark side mercenary of some kind, and perhaps the girl he's with is his partner or protege. I'll admit, that seems like an interesting concept, so hopefully they explore it. After the title screen, we join up with Ahsoka, who's walking through some ruins, Presumably the map she acquired led her here. And whoa! Are you serious? She just cut a hole through the ground in a second! That's like 4-inch concrete, too. Qui-Gon's lightsaber wasn't able to get through these doors, but Ahsoka's can cut through the equivalent of a highway barrier like it's hot butter. And this isn't the only time this episode Qui-Gon is made to look like a clown. Anywho, she drops down into some sort of chamber with paintings on the walls and some dials she turns until an orb appears and... I'm sorry, am I supposed to be impressed or something? The show has her down here for a full 3 minutes just turning knobs, but there's no explanation for why or how. Is she solving some sort of puzzle? There's zero dialogue and nothing we as the audience can use for context clues for what actually is going on. What is she doing? This is one of the scenes that reminded me of a boring version of Uncharted. Like, imagine you got into a chamber and a cutscene started where Nate just pushed 5 buttons without saying a word, and then out came a map with no explanation. Be pretty unsatisfying, wouldn't it? When she leaves the chamber, she's met by enemies who want what she just took. They're droids, and these droids, they're wearing capes. Why are the droids wearing capes? Oh, it looks so silly. Anyway, Ahsoka does some more rapid-fire concrete cutting, and it looks even more ridiculous coming from the bottom. Also, in this entire battle, Ahsoka doesn't use the Force, something that would make it a very easy fight against droids that have melee weapons. Oh, droids initiate self-destruct, but of course they'll give Ahsoka plenty of time to get clear before they explode. Why would you put bombs that big on droids for a self-destruct sequence? That blast radius is enormous. She gets picked up by her ship, piloted by a droid, the same droid who helped younglings construct their lightsabers in the Clone Wars.
I am just following standard Jedi mission protocol.
Yang, the Order doesn't exist anymore.
But it's a droid. It's programmed to follow that protocol. If you want to change that, you need to update its programming. It's not sentient. It's a droid.
How did you get her to tell the truth?
Let's just say I didn't follow standard Jedi protocol.
Alright, a big worry of mine was that this show would treat Ahsoka like just a normal Jedi, but it looks like that at least will stay consistent. Ahsoka then receives a transmission from Home 1, informing her of Elsbeth's escape. So she returns to Home 1, where she meets with Hera Syndulla.
I clapped when I saw it!
To debrief about the 2 Force wielders they encountered. And Hu Yang the droid delivers a strange line.
Perhaps one of them was once a Jedi.
Why would you presume that only one of them used to be a Jedi? Wouldn't the droid say, perhaps they were once Jedi? This is what I mean when I say the dialogue is clunky. It often feels as though the characters know more about the story than they should, like the writers weren't able to remove themselves from the dialogue.
The location of the last missing Imperial Grand Admiral.
Ahsoka and Hera discuss the possibility of Thrawn, and by extension Ezra, being alive. They have a map that gives a lead on his location, but they can't unlock it. And Hera says,
It's never a straight line with you Jedi, is it?
well, first, she's not a Jedi, and I will continue to remind characters of that until Ahsoka does it herself. Second, what does the map being locked have to do with Jedi? Again, just a weird line. She could have said, of course, I should have assumed it wouldn't be simple. Or even, well, it never was a straight line with Thrawn. But she opts for this line that forces a Jedi reference in.
You know who could help you with this.
Hera implies Ahsoka should seek out Sabine's help, and we cut to Lothal, where they are celebrating the 7-year anniversary of the Empire being defeated there, and honoring Sabine in the process, who helped lead that battle. This sets up the strangest scene from these 2 episodes. Sabine has ditched the ceremony, and Governor Azadi, apparently that's his name, orders a lockdown of the facility where it's being held to find her. Turns out she's on a speeder driving away from the city, and 2 ships track her down. She even knows one of the pilots. The pilot of the other ship gets ahead of Sabine's speeder and lands on the highway to blockade it, forcing her to slow down. Instead, Sabine speeds up and pulls a trick where she skids her speeder across the ground underneath the ship and goes on her merry way. The two officers stop trying to bring her in. Seems like a simple enough scene, but the more you think about it, the more incomprehensible the whole thing becomes. What was this scene meant to accomplish? The fact they're having this celebration is irrelevant to the story, and the world-building work it does could be accomplished by a throwaway line about it being 7 years since this battle happened, like the fact that Ezra has been gone for 7 years. The scene exists to introduce Sabine. But how is the show trying to characterize her? Let's think, what happened in this scene?
Here to say a few words is one of those rebel leaders. Commander Sabine Wren.
Sabine was to be honored at this celebration, hailed as a hero by the people of Lothal. She showed up.
Where is she?
I don't know, she was just here.
Where did she go?
I don't know where she went.
But then left just before she was introduced, somehow without any of the people she was standing next to noticing, and took off. But why? This kind of scene happens often, particularly in superhero movies and TV shows, where a character is meant to be at a place and then doesn't show up because they had to do something more important, like saving people's lives. But here, Sabine does show up. She just leaves in the middle. And she doesn't leave to go do something noble, she just leaves. Maybe the memory of losing Ezra was too much for her to handle, and she starts slipping into a sort of panic attack. But she's giving Officer Man sass, so she seems fine.
Well, you're missing the ceremony.
Oh, that was today.
You knew it was today, you were there. You don't sound aloof or unconcerned, you sound like you're trying to feel as though everyone else is beneath you. I think what they were going for here was to try and characterize her as rebellious, but that isn't what they accomplished. Receiving the invite to come be honored and declining it because you don't care about these sorts of politics would be rebellious. But showing up to acknowledge the gratitude of the people you freed from tyranny, presumably having committed to saying a few words, and then bailing on your commitment, mainly paints you as an ungrateful, inconsiderate, disrespectful jerk. And she doesn't give any sort of satisfactory explanation later, really making me like this character. But the strangeness of the scene doesn't end there. Why did you order a manhunt for her? What was your plan, to arrest her and force her to receive the people's praise? There's no win for you here. Sabine left you out to dry. And all the while, perhaps the most out-of-place soundtrack I've ever heard plays. Something that belongs in an old Need for Speed game, or maybe Tokyo Drift, but not Star Wars. It's just a bizarre scene. Sabine returns to her apartment where she lives alone and feeds her cat, and honestly, I think this was the most revealing character development of the episode for anyone. She then watches a recording of Ezra saying goodbye, which I'm 95% sure he would not have had time to make, and that's it. Scene ends. We're back with the evil Force mercenaries and Elsbeth, who have arrived at the ruins where Ahsoka was at the beginning of the episode, and how are their columns still standing? Did you see the explosion these droids caused? I don't think the writers know how the weapons they use in these shows actually work.
An ancient temple built by my ancestors, the Night Sisters of Dathomir.
Here it's revealed that Elsbeth is a Night Sister. Weird how after they were all massacred, they seem to live on. And wait, Ahsoka didn't oversee the transfer of a prisoner who not only had information that could lead to another war, but was also a Night Sister witch? How on earth are you determining your priorities? She had to have known she was a Night Sister, right? I mean, she's had experience with them before. Ah, whatever, Bangs didn't know she was a witch, maybe Ahsoka didn't either.
Send this one to the planet Lothal.
Elsbeth then makes the insane leap that the map is on Lothal. Particularly insane because at this moment, Ahsoka isn't even there yet. The explanation for this is that Ahsoka's former apprentice is on Lothal. We'll get to Sabine as Ahsoka's apprentice later, but for now a couple questions. 1. How is this like common knowledge that Ahsoka had an apprentice? She evaded detection from the Empire and Darth Vader, but apparently not from these jabronis. 2. Why would you assume that Ahsoka would go to her former apprentice? She's probably former for a reason. And 3. The reason Sabine can help is that she has a great eye for art. Do these clowns know that? How did Darth Vader, her former master, not manage to pick up any whispers about her, but you know so much about her that you know her former apprentice was an artist? Also, Elsbeth said send this one to Lothal. That's an entire planet. You're not exactly narrowing it down for her. But don't worry, she'll find Sabine no problem, because planets are the size of small towns. Back with Sabine, after waking up saying Ezra's name, she sees Ahsoka's ship and goes to wherever it is she's landed to meet her. She gives the governor the same line she gave her officer friend.
You missed the ceremony.
Was that yesterday? It slipped my mind.
Again, not charming, not endearing, just immature and selfish. She didn't treat people this disrespectfully as a teenager in Rebels, and by now she'd be in her late 20s. Stop making me hate you.
You were missed, Sabine. Everyone was there.
Not everyone.
So were you mad that Ahsoka wasn't there to see you get honored, or were you depressed that Ezra is still missing? And again, why did you bother showing up? You would have known neither of them would be there. Whatever, just stop bringing up that scene. It's not helping anyone.
I think I know how to find Ezra.
Wow, you know what? I'll give the show another point here. Ahsoka went straight to the point she knew would get Sabine to listen to her. No delaying it to manufacture tension that shouldn't be there. She speaks wisely here. She doesn't even appeal to her using Thrawn. Good job, Ahsoka. They go back to Ahsoka's ship, and Sabine remembers when she was in a better shape. They begin discussing the map and how it might be unlocked, but Sabine is quickly sidetracked and asks about Ahsoka. It takes roughly 12 seconds for Sabine to lob a veiled accusation at Ahsoka.
I go where I'm needed.
Not always.
Look, I have no idea what they're talking about, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say I'll end up siding with Ahsoka on this one, after you acted like an insufferable child when people wanted to give you their thanks. This is why you shouldn't make me hate your character right off the bat.
You never made things easy for me, Master.
I'm sorry, were you expecting training with a Jedi to be easy? Didn't you get a taste of it from Kanan?
You're not fighting me. You're fighting yourself. And losing.
There is nothing easy about being a Jedi.
Thank you, Ahsoka. Ahsoka tells Sabine not to take the map out of the ship, so let me guess. Yep, she takes the map out of the ship. But before that happens, Huyang tells Ahsoka he can identify one of the baddies' lightsabers they scanned, but not the other one. Huh, so only one was a former Jedi after all. Crazy how he predicted that unlikely reality.
So definitely Jedi trained.
Yes, however, this one I do not recognize. But this one...
Again, that dialogue is clunky. It should be, yes, this one I do not recognize, but this one belonged to Baylan Skoll. Not however and but. Apparently Baylan Skoll disappeared at the end of the Clone Wars and now wants to rise as the new Sith or something, and honestly, he's the only character I have any investment in at this point. As Sabine drives back to her cat, she's spotted by some surveillance droid, immediately proving Ahsoka right, and Bangs dispatches 2 droids to go after her. Thank goodness they don't have capes. Back on Ahsoka's ship, she and Hera discuss Sabine's behavior, and Hera blames her stubbornness on being a Mandalorian. Oh right, being a Mandalorian is supposed to mean something. Can everyone stop crossing their arms? Are these supposed to be like power poses or something? Anyway, Hera brings us to this little gem of dialogue.
I bet your master found you difficult at times.
Anakin never got to finish my training. Before the end of the Clone Wars, I walked away from him.
But surely Hera knows this, right? So this is just for the audience who are brand new to Ahsoka.
I'm sure you had your reasons.
Wait, how is Hera not aware of this? This makes up 90% of Ahsoka's character. You didn't bat an eye at hearing that Anakin was her master, but it's news to you that Ahsoka left the Order? You never asked how she survived Order 66? Your boyfriend knew, but not you, huh?
I cannot.
Why?
Because I'm no longer a Jedi. It was my choice. I left the Order.
Also, Ahsoka left Sabine? After the guilt she faced leaving Anakin and knowing what he became, you're telling me she then left Sabine, who she knew was headstrong and reckless.
Sometimes even the right reasons have the wrong consequences.
Exactly. She knew this from Anakin, but she said screw it with Sabine. No, Ahsoka Tano did not. Why would she even train her to be a Jedi in the first place? Ahsoka didn't believe in the Order, that's why she left. And how can Sabine become... Nope. We'll save that for later. We return to Sabine and she's figuring out the puzzle of the map. Apparently the secret is you have to twist 3 parts of the orb to line up the right image. Now unfortunately for the show, I actually understand basic combinatorics. There are 3 movable parts of the orb, and each one has 5 possible settings. So there are 5 to the 3rd permutations, or 125 possibilities. So had Ahsoka just tried to do this herself, and just gone through all the possibilities, it probably would have taken her roughly 10 minutes, even if the correct combination was the last one she tried, which would have been way faster than going all the way to Lothal to get Sabine's help, but I guess they didn't teach math at the Jedi Academy. Or, more likely, the writers aren't creative enough to come up with a real puzzle to solve. Anyway, some star map appears and Sabine goes out to take a look at the actual stars. Meanwhile, the droids have received a software update that lets them not make noise when they move anymore, and they sneak up on Sabine. And it missed. Of course it missed. It only had a clean shot against a target who had her back turned, but Sabine is just such a boss. One grabs her while the other takes the map and destroys her stuff. Hey, someone made an intelligent decision. Even if it is a frickin' droid, I'll take it. But then, why don't you shoot her? You tried to kill her earlier, and now she can't possibly dodge your blaster. She gets free of the droid holding her, and then she gets thwarted by a door, and calls Huyang for backup. But before she goes after the droid, she goes back to grab a lightsaber. Why? You don't need a lightsaber to take down a droid. It would require you to get much closer to it than a blaster would, and you're on the chase. And it also wasted precious seconds. Almost like the script told Sabine she was going to meet someone with a lightsaber. And then Sabine meets someone with a lightsaber. Oh boy, Bangs and Sabine are gonna fight. I'm sure this will be an exciting... Nope. The choreography is awful, especially from Sabine. Why are you using the lightsaber like it's a baseball bat? You have actual lightsaber training from Kanan and presumably Ahsoka. These kind of swings might be useful if you're stronger than your opponent and can break their defense, but you're not. And you can't. You get tossed around like a rag doll. The fight ends with Sabine getting stabbed through the torso, and the episode ends with Sabine falling over. And honestly, I'm not even going to pretend like I expect Sabine to be dead.
'Tis but a scratch. A scratch?
Of course she's not. Sure, most vital organs are in your torso. Sure, being stabbed and taking the stabbing object out allows both external and internal bleeding to commence. Sure, having a hole through your torso so that someone can actually look through like a peephole would allow air and bacteria to start damaging your insides. And sure, the lightsaber would burn to a crisp any organs around the wound. But this is Disney Star Wars, where a named character being stabbed in the torso with a lightsaber is more likely to live than die. Yeah, that's right, Qui-Gon. Remember, they moved Double Weenie Wednesday to Friday.
I'm always here on Double Weenie Wednesday.
Actually, they moved Double Weenie Wednesday to Friday.
And besides, today's Monday.
Oh man, I forgot we have a whole nother episode. We begin with Sabine waking up in the hospital, and yeah, she's fine. Apparently the map she saw showed 2 galaxies with a pathway between them, and my first reaction to that is if anyone from the Star Wars galaxy ever comes to Earth, then I'm going to go back to their galaxy with them. Maybe they have decent movies and TV shows there.
How many droids were there?
2. I took one out.
Ha ha, you got beat by 2 droids, loser.
No. You've done enough.
Yeah, Ahsoka's right, Sabine, you suck. So Skull and Bangs take the map to not Stonehenge and plug it in, and that brings us to the title screen. Good, let's keep this rolling. Ahsoka goes back to where Sabine got stabbed, and I'm sorry, is she using the Force to hear the past? Are we really doing this? It was a neat way to do some world building in Fallen Order, but don't bring it to the actual shows. It's not even like she's investigating the scene or something. She knows exactly what happened. They're just showing us that apparently she can do this now. Ahsoka goes into Sabine's little room, and a droid is waiting to try and kill her. Why? Why did Bangs leave this droid here? She didn't actually think he'd be able to kill Ahsoka if Ahsoka came here, did she? Why would she even care about killing Ahsoka right now? That's not what she was hired to do. She just gave Ahsoka a lead on her. That droid has things in its memory that Ahsoka can use against you. Yet another character being an idiot so the plot can happen. Sabine is sitting up. She's fine. Do you want us to care about people being stabbed by lightsabers or not, Disney?
Like me, this kind of droid is incredibly resilient.
Ah, yes. Self-glorification. A time-honored way to make audiences love a character. It used to be that we learned to appreciate a character's strengths by seeing them in action. Then writers got really lazy and just had other characters announce them out loud. Now writers are so lazy that characters are just announcing their own virtues. Screw you two smirking at each other like, oh, how endearing. No, it's haughty and you two should be scoffing at her. Sabine says she can get into the droid's memory core by powering it up. Kind of like accessing a hard drive, which I'm fine with. What I don't really understand is why the head will explode if you get the power levels wrong. Like if you give it too much power, it'll overload? Because that kind of makes sense. Is it like a failsafe? Is what's about to happen going to make a lick of sense?
It's now or never.
Well, that's dumb. You could clearly do it later. Oh, so she overloaded it, right?
This droid came here from Corellia.
Wait, that was the right amount of power? It was smoking and sparking. It was about to... What? Yeah, no, that whole thing made no sense at all.
Hey. You did good.
Oh, are we about to get some character development? So, update. The answer was no. We got the exact thing we've now gotten 4 times by my count. Ahsoka being Sabine's master didn't work out, but Ahsoka needs Sabine now. No new info. I guess the most you could say is you get Hera trying to act as a mediator to bridge the gap between the two of them, but that's it. We're back at Not Stonehenge, and Elsbeth meets her mercenaries there to get a report on what they've discovered here. But why were you not with Skull? In the last episode, Bangs got sent to Lothal to retrieve the map, and Skull didn't get an assignment, so presumably he stayed with Elsbeth. So Skull and Elsbeth should arrive together, and Bangs should arrive separately. But instead, Skull and Bangs arrive together, and Elsbeth comes later. Maybe she was off doing her own thing or something, I don't know. I mean, they are so good at keeping continuity in these projects. Skull points out that the ruins in which they stand were not made by Jedi, and Elsbeth explains that they were built by an ancient people from a distant galaxy, then asks if they'd like to see it. She does some magic to display a map that shows another galaxy where Thrawn ended up. Surprisingly, Skull seems to know something about this. Apparently Jedi heard tales of this intergalactic bridge when they were young, but didn't realize those stories had such real backing. When Skull questions her certainty, Elsbeth says that Thrawn calls to her across time and space, despite him not being any sort of Jedi or magic user. And all I can think is, can this show be about her instead? The interesting stuff is done. I guess the Eye of Sauron is coming. But before we go, Bangs asks Skull what will happen when they find Thrawn. And he gives this answer.
For some, war. For others, a new beginning.
Wouldn't those two things occur for everyone? Like, doesn't the new beginning come from this war he would start? Just another clunky piece of dialogue.
And for us.
Power.
Wow. Bad guys who want power. Really stretching ourselves today, aren't we, writers?
Daring today, aren't we?
And Bangs heads off to Corellia to help this guy with something, which is exactly where Ahsoka and Hera are, to take a look at Elsbeth's operations there.
You will still find ex-Imperials at every level of the New Republic government. The average worker doesn't care about the nuances of galactic politics.
I actually like this. It's true, these basically factory workers wouldn't care if the person heading up the galactic government is an emperor or a chancellor, as long as they're left alone and get paid. It also reveals how difficult it is to dissolve the power of an empire, and how fragile the new system would be at the onset. Point show.
Looks like connecting with Sabine paid off.
Alright, this is dialogue exchange number 5 about Ahsoka and Sabine's relationship. Will anything new come up? In fact, it does. Hera goes to bat for Sabine, asking Ahsoka to consider taking her back as her apprentice. Her justification for why?
I think she could use some structure.
Your, your reasoning for why Ahsoka should train Sabine to be a Jedi, something that takes incredible discipline, is because she's undisciplined. That's a great idea, and I think college football coaches should train guys who are 5'4", 120 pounds to be offensive linemen.
She's not ready.
I'm sorry, she's not ready? Jedi started their training as infants, toddlers at the latest. She's not getting more ready. Yoda didn't want to train Luke because he was too old, not because he wasn't ready. And their situation was much more dire than yours, and Luke was younger in Empire than Sabine is here. That's not how it works at all. You don't start training to be a Jedi when you're ready, you start as a baby. Maybe the reason Ahsoka doesn't give an actual answer to when you know you're ready is because this is just a stupid argument. Ha! I burned my hand in a grease fire and it took months to heal. This chick got stabbed with a lightsaber and it scarred over in less than a day. There are no consequences in this universe.
I can't train if Ahsoka doesn't want to teach me.
But why is that an excuse for not training? You picked up a lightsaber and got wrecked. You got training from Kanan Jarrus too, and you're a Mandalorian, which supposedly means something. Why didn't you continue combat training on your own?
I have known many Padawans over the centuries. Your aptitude for the Force would fall short of them all.
And this brings me to the most confusing part of this whole Ahsoka-Sabine relationship. Why was Ahsoka training her? Is Sabine Force sensitive? She's clearly the weakest Force user this droid has seen over centuries. Kanan Jarrus spent years with her and never picked up any detection that she might be Force sensitive, despite noticing it in Ezra before he even met him. He even trained Sabine with a lightsaber and didn't notice it. Are we really doing the Daisy Ridley thing?
How Rey has the Force.
Everyone has a Force.
Or maybe just everyone of a certain variety has the Force. What could Ahsoka's motivation for training her possibly be? She refused to train Grogu because of his attachment to Mando as a baby. But she tried to train this mess of a person? On Corellia, Hera asks why a certain hyperdrive core is being made, and Businessman looks it up only to find that it's classified. Hera is shocked, as she is a general, so nothing is classified to her. As Businessman asks a protocol droid for assistance in declassifying it, Ahsoka inquires about the types of droids that ambush Sabine, and discovers that one is on the transport that's taking off. Hera commands the tower crew to stop the ship, but it turns out they're all still loyal to the Empire, so I guess it wasn't a great idea to have ex-Imperials at every level of government. Hera races back to her own ship, while Ahsoka runs after the one that's leaving until she meets, Madoc, I don't know, Mask Man, and we get another fight scene. At the same time, we have a little mini chase scene, and look who it is, the droid from Rebels.
And I clapped!
They follow the ship and plant a tracker on it, and try to have some funny droid banter while doing it. Oh, and when they plant the tracker, the droid literally throws it, which is funny, but not in the way they were trying to make it. On the surface, Ahsoka's fight is fine. The choreography isn't great, not super sharp, but it's leaps and bounds better than Sabine's fight in the first episode, so that's all I'll say. Masked Man gets away on a ship with bangs. Now, real quick, I've seen 3 theories circulating on who Masked Man might be. One is that he's Ezra. Now that's ridiculous, since he's in another galaxy. Another is that he's Kanan, and if this guy survived too, actually I wouldn't be surprised. Still, no. The other is that he's Galen Merrick, the guy that Vader had as an apprentice in the Force Unleashed video games, but those aren't canon, so no. It's crazy how little it takes to excite certain groups of Star Wars fans that clap like seals at everything. The idea of taking an old character and putting them in a mask has them, well...
Yes!
Let me present the simplest and most interesting theory. He's a former Inquisitor, and the writers are going to explore what these guys did once the Sith they served were defeated. That would actually be interesting, so I'm sure they won't do it. Sabine is getting geared up and ready to go. She's laying out her old armor to pull the nostalgia strings and convince people who liked Rebels that this show is just as good. This helmet is utterly meaningless to me now. Actually, that's not true. It explains why Sabine is such an incompetent fighter. And finally, she has to cut her hair to keep continuity with the cartoons. Ahsoka and Hera are looking at the aftermath of the debacle on Corellia, and Businessman is being arrested? Was he an Imperial sympathizer? I thought he was just naive. He seems pretty scared when they all turn on Hera and Ahsoka. I guess the Republic is cracking down on anyone with an Imperial tie. Too bad they didn't do that from the start.
How can they still be loyal to the Empire?
It's not loyalty, it's greed.
So we're back to the Empire being 100% bad with no nuance. Well, it was good while it lasted. Ha ha ha! She cut her hair, so now she's ready. And that just about does it. Ahsoka goes back to Lothal to pick up Sabine, and they get the same shot that Rebels ended on. Oh, actually, we get one more scene with the baddies discussing getting back Thrawn using the Eye of Sauron and recognizing that Ahsoka is coming. Skull says it will be a shame to kill her because there are so few Jedi left.
Sentimental.
Truth.
And the writers don't know what parallel structure is. By saying sentimental, Elsbeth was making a question about Skull's emotional state, but he responds by making an assertion about the nature of his statement. It would have flowed a lot better if Elsbeth had said, sentiment? But still, Skull's ability to see his enemy in some light of respect is good, and the eventual meeting between him and Ahsoka has a solid foundation for him to make it a great scene. Whew, alright, that's it, we're done. So yeah, not great. Like I said, I'm not dooming the entire season to fail. These were just 2 weak opening episodes. It almost feels like they had a 6-episode story that they had to stretch out into 8 episodes, so maybe now it'll pick up. As far as characters go, Hera is most consistent with who she is in Rebels. Sabine is an obnoxious child who should have grown up when she was fighting a rebellion against a galactic empire. Ahsoka is overly stoic because nobody knows how to write a strong female character without making them devoid of emotion, even though they've done it before.
How would that look, Ahsoka? Huh? Forcing my way in would have made you look even more guilty.
I'm not guilty!
You need to come back and make your case to the Council.
No! I'm not going to take the fall for something I didn't do!
For the bad guys, Skull is obviously supposed to be a foil to Ahsoka, a former Jedi who left the Order behind but decided to look out for himself instead of protecting others, and Bangs is a foil to Sabine. I'm sure she'll get some sort of redemption arc, although hopefully she does something a bit more redemptive than deciding not to murder an innocent child. And Disney should have made a show about Morgan Elsbeth instead of Mando, Boba Fett, or Obi-Wan.
Obi-Wan.
Now, moving forward from me and this channel, I don't know if I'll be doing a breakdown of every episode in the season. If not, I'll do a full season recap at the end. Just a heads up, this channel is not going to be one devoted to all things Star Wars. It just so happened that this was the show that came out as I was starting it. I'll be talking about all sorts of movies, shows, and the general state of modern entertainment. Who knows, maybe even a video game or two. Thank you for watching. I know this was long, and I'll see you when I see you.